There it is. We're live. Welcome, everybody. We are a beautiful Tuesday here. Still a little cloudy in San Diego. What's going on? We don't pay for this weather. All right. We got a fun show. My meta. We're gonna have fun. Here we go. Let's just play the intro.
Practicing Polyamory. Real-life perspectives from the imperfect people of polyamory. The mission of the Practicing Polyamory podcast is to provide a platform for all of the real-life, flawed humans that practice polyamory so that we might all learn from one another and grow as a community. Enjoy the show.
All right, everybody. Welcome. Thank you, as always, for joining us. If you're joining us for the first time today, welcome, and thank you for tuning in. And if you've been here for a while, then you already know we're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So you've got 3 opportunities every week to ask your questions. If you have any questions about your relationships, or if there's a topic you'd like to hear discussed on the show, slide into my DMs and let me know. Follow the show on all social media platforms at Practicing Polya. Let me know what it is that you want us to talk about. And as always, a reminder, if you're listening to this podcast, you are a welcome guest to be on the show. None of us are perfect. We're our imperfect stories, because the more stories we share, the more others will see us in themselves, and the more representation we have, the more we can strengthen our community. So go to practicingpolyamory.com, sign up to share your imperfect story too. Now, I totally messed up, semi-messed up, whatever. I actually didn't write an intro for this awesome guest. But just off the top of my head, Jason and I have known each other for a couple of years now, ever since I started dating Amuda, which is the partner that we have in common. And he's just an awesome dude. Super awesome dude. Loves Legos. I know that much. Wicked smart. And has his name in the history books because of legal stuff. So lots of fun. Whatever. Welcome to the show, Jason. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Of course.
So we were talking a little bit before the show, just kind of like, what are we going to talk about? What kind of stuff? And you know what? I'm going to start, because I know that you're into this stuff too, and I know that I wouldn't like be out of left field with this. I'm going to take a page out of Jessica over at Remodeled Love on Instagram. I'm going to take a page out of her book and start with this. Why don't you hit us with your privileges?
Oh, geez.
That way our audience knows. I love the way that she says it. She's like, that way our audience knows where you're coming from and can can have the viewpoint of your privileges when they're listening to what we're saying.
Right. Well, I mean, the obvious ones are pretty cis, pretty white, pretty male. Let's see. I am somewhat disabled, which is, I guess, sort of one of my non-privileges. And I have found that tends to make me way more empathetic and understanding of people who, don't have, or let me rephrase, who have other challenges, right? Whether it be not cis, not white, not male, that sort of thing. But like, those are the pretty obvious ones. Let's see, you mentioned smart. So, I don't have any significant mental or cognitive challenges. So that's also, up there on the list. And then I lucked out on the family department. I have a pretty darn good family. So I'm not like kind of, fighting the tide on that front, right? I'm not like slogging through family that causes trouble all the time and makes life harder for me. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing all that. I mean, like I said, taking that page out of her book, she does such a great job with that, and I think it's super important. So,
yeah, I like that.
Some of the stuff that we were talking about is, we have this partner in common. I'm using that terminology because people don't like the shared partner terminology. People don't like that.
I guess it has some like tinges of possessiveness to it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So partner in common, I think that.
Okay. I can see that. Yeah.
I don't know.
With a lot of things, right? The words you use matter, and trying to do better, or at least tweak your wording sometimes helps tweak the way you think about things. It might take a while, but
Yes,
yeah.
yes, I totally agree with that 100%. I started chatting with somebody new recently, and uh, I was telling this person about our polycule. So I'm,
Hmm.
name all the people, right? And then I get to Tabitha and I'm like, oh yeah, and Tabitha uses they them pronouns. And so I start like explaining about who Tabitha is and what they like to do, what they're like, and all these different things. And as I'm describing Tabitha to this new person, um, I find myself very I want to say consciously, but it's almost more habitually using those they them pronouns,
Hmm.
it was interesting to me because like in conversation with this new person, they came almost by second nature.
Nice.
But when I chat with you or when I chat with Amuda, sometimes those pronouns slip up. And I
Hmm.
think maybe it's because we are more familiar with Tabitha
That could be.
we knew Tabitha before they discovered before they changed their pronouns, and so there's like a
Right.
little bit of an adjustment there. But I
Hmm.
totally agree with you that those words carry meaning, and it's so
Yeah.
important that we I can't think of the word, but we respect that, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, and like I was saying before, also just changing the way you say things, right? Like a partner in common versus shared partner. There's a pretty subtle distinction there, but shared partner does reasonably imply some possessiveness, which is
Hmm.
something a lot of non-monogamous people try to, well, especially polyamorous people, right, try to avoid. So,
Right.
and pronouns is sort of the same way. I know a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot. Some people, pick pronouns in some regards to get people to stop and think about like what the gender binary is, and like why it's probably hogwash. Let me rephrase that: it is hogwash. What I mean is, from a outsider's perspective, they could see it as probably hogwash, right?
Right.
Or at least possibly hogwash.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Tabitha and their pronouns. I had a friend from my Lego days who transitioned, I want to say 2 years after I met her, and it definitely took a while to get used to the new pronouns. Also, that was one of the first people I'd ever met that had transitioned.
Hmm. Hmm.
This was years ago at this point, but I still remember, doing sort of the goofy, not goofy, but goofing up and saying, "Oh, hey, dude," and being like, "Oops, sorry." And she was always like, "Yeah, no worries, I get it, it's fine." But
Yep. Yep.
at the same time, you try to do better,
When we know better, we do better.
yeah.
Um,
Or at least we try.
Trying to think of what show it was where somebody comes back after like several years and they're different, they're presenting as a different gender now,
Yeah.
and that old friend still has trouble, and I think at one point they used that
Oh
word, they used
yeah. Was it
dude.
Sensei?
Was it sensate?
I think it might have been Sensei when they like meet one of I so bad with names. The one of the primary characters. She's on the run from the people's hunting the sensates, and she reaches back to one of her hacker buddies,
Yes.
and he's kind
Yes.
of gross about it, but at the same time, like understanding.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that.
Is that the one
Yes.
you were thinking of?
um It's
No.
not, but even
Oh,
even
okay.
that one though, it was kind of the same thing where there was a couple of times, like you said, he was kind of gross about it, and I
Mm-hmm.
think there might have been like a dude thrown in there, but like I've
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some people say, dude, it's almost like gender neutral. Dude is a gender neutral term,
Right. Especially if
to
you grew
some
up in
people,
California. That
right?
said,
Southern
I always
California.
err on the side of whoever, right? Like I kind of let other people decide whether dude is gender neutral when it affects them, you know?
Yes. Yes, absolutely 100%. I love that. Um Moon and I were chatting about this I think yesterday. I don't remember exactly what the conversation was, but it's like if they say, that oh, it was like about swinging versus polyamory, right?
Mhm.
If uh four people, two different couples are friends, but they are also swingers, right? Like it's
Mhm.
up to them to identify as swingers or as polyam, right? Like
Right.
they get to make
Sure.
that decision. And so kind of the
Oh
same
yeah.
thing with these pronouns or using dude as a gender neutral term, like
Hmm.
how whoever is affected by it is the one that gets to make the decision whether or not it is or isn't
Yeah, exactly. And like I can also understand,
for
like
them.
again, if you grew up in California, dude is sort of baked into your vocabulary sometimes. That just means you have to put some extra time and energy into it. Although
Totally.
I will bring this up only because why not? I have recently realized. So one thing I didn't mention in the privileges side of everything, I have ADD. Let me rephrase. My daughter has ADD, and the odds are she got it from me. I am not officially diagnosed, but I have enough of the things that it's pretty easy to note that she probably got it from me. Um, and one thing I actually find really hard is remembering pronouns, but I
Mm,
think that's more of an extension of I'm terrible at remembering names, period, because
right.
I already have to run. I'm still figuring out how to explain this really well, but it's sort of like when I'm in a social situation, whether it be a podcast or in person with people, I'm sort of running like social filters, and so and like I can only run so many at a time, and so
Hmm.
if I have to juggle in the remember people's names filter, that usually means two or three other filters get dropped, right? And pronouns is yet another filter, and again, not to complain and not to say that I don't want to support people and their gender identities, but it's one of those things that I realized recently that like I try to give myself more credit for trying, but also like I'm trying really hard not to beat myself up when I screw up, right?
Yeah.
Like that friend I mentioned from years ago when she transitioned, I would really get down on myself later about like, oh my god, I can't believe, like, yeah, I know I knew her as something else for 2 years, but like that's not what she is, and that's not who she is, and do better. And I was kind of hard on myself, and now I'm at least a lot easier on myself, which is that, oh hey, it's just like you don't remember names that well, try to do better next time, maybe you
Yeah.
consciously turn that filter on before you get into a situation we're going to be talking to people.
Totally.
um, yeah, interesting side thing. I was talking to Amuda about this a couple of months ago, and I'm still like percolating sort of the explanations for it. Hopefully that was clear.
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, what I got out of that is that we have to give ourselves grace, you
Sure.
know, and maybe
Mhm.
sometimes ask for grace from someone who's transitioning if we screw up the pronouns. There are some people who are just jerks, right?
Oh yeah.
And they're gonna be like, "No, you're a dude. I don't care what you say. Like, this is what you are, and obviously I'm an asshole, and I'm not gonna change." Blah blah blah. Right? Like that's a whole separate thing. But I think
Right.
that folks who are uh, actively trying and making the effort, generally speaking, I think grace is usually offered, and oh
Oh yeah,
shoot, I
definitely.
said the wrong pronoun, I'm so sorry, and we can always, it's just a matter of practice and improvement,
Hmm.
even with Tabitha.
Yeah.
uh Amuna and I would be talking, we would have conversations, and we would be using the wrong pronouns, and we
Yeah.
would catch each other, and
Yep.
more and more doing it, practice using it over and over and over again. And like I said, when I was having this conversation with somebody new, those pronouns just hit and came
Which
naturally,
is
and
pretty
it
cool.
wasn't even a second thought.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, all right. Something that you said that I wrote down
Okay.
when we're talking about these terms. We're talking about shared versus partner in common, right? And the
Hmm.
possessiveness. So what we had talked about a little bit before the show was this relationship between you and me, and obviously Amuda. So I wanted to kind of get your feedback on. It's been almost 2 years now for
Hmm.
Amuda and I.
Right.
You and her have been together, what, almost five now?
Almost four.
Almost
I
four?
would say almost four. Yeah.
Almost 4. Okay, so
Mhm.
you were together. What is that? I'm good at math. 2 years, about 2 years
Roughly
before.
2 years, yeah, when she met you. Well,
Right.
I guess you guys met before you started dating, obviously, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Before we started dating, we'll use that. So,
Hmm.
and I feel like we've never actually sat down and had this conversation. Like, is that something that metas do? Like, do metas sit down and be like, "Yo, bro, like, how you doing? Like, everything cool?" Like,
Oh, you mean like a sort of like a, is anything wrong, or are we doing okay as co people that are
yeah,
co-interested in somebody?
yeah.
Gotcha. Um
Is that something that
so
metas do?
I mean, I'm sure there's some do.
Probably, right?
My suspicion is usually that stuff comes up if there are problems,
Right.
right? If somebody's doing something that really annoys somebody else, but like on the other hand, you and I are both pretty easygoing, and like we all huh, pretty easygoing,
Yeah.
so and like I really strive to avoid like possessiveness.
Right.
Um,
Same.
like it never really made sense to me, and I remember when I was in a monogamous marriage for God almost 14 years,
Uh-huh.
and like the possessiveness part never really made any sense to me.
Mhm.
And I do remember like to a point where like my ex-wife was like mad that I wasn't jealous.
Hmm. That's
So
funny.
I know, right? So from that perspective, though, I would say because of that, right? Because of my sort of not really possessive, like maybe when the relationship was new, I was a little not even threatened. It was more like, oh, I wanted to do that too, or whatever, right? For me, it's usually been
Envy.
more of a very light FOMO kind of a thing, not
Uh-huh.
a I am jealous that they're doing something,
Right.
if that makes any sense. Yeah, but how
Totally.
about with you? I mean, like from your perspective, right? You came into this, and we already had a multi-year relationship in progress. But like,
Mhm.
did that feel weird, quote unquote, breaking into that, or?
Good. I like how you turned this around on me. But yeah, a little bit. There was definitely a little bit of same type of thing, same type of FOMO, right? Where you have this established relationship already, and there are things that the two of
Mhm.
you share and have shared for quite some time.
Right.
And like I think for me, probably the hardest thing was I say hardest, but maybe just most challenging or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, was this acceptance that my relationship with her is not your relationship with her. Like there
Mhm.
are things that you and her are going to do and ways that you and her are going to connect that she and I aren't going to connect on that level and
Right.
vice versa.
Yeah.
Um and it's both challenging and freeing
Yeah.
to
Exactly.
me.
It's challenging, right? From sort of the like, I like to put it, the everybody's swimming in monogamy culture. So you're bombarded with all of these things that you're supposed to be exclusive and do these things right, and coming like undoing that takes a lot of work, and you're constantly getting attached back to it, right? Like, or not
Mhm.
attached, but you know what I mean? It's constantly being refreshed, like all of the media and everything else is so monocentric. um I can see that, like it's so like that's part of the challenge, right? Is sort of overcoming the old programming, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's so much of a relief to be like, oh, hey, she loves to run. You love to run. Great. You guys get to go run together, and like that's not something I have to do with her or feel bad that I don't want to do with her, right? I mean, like that's just one really easy example, but
Mhm.
there's tons of things like that,
For
and
sure. And
I don't know.
that's not something that you were going to do anyway, and that is something that she was going to do anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're losing out. I had a guest. I don't remember exactly who it was. I'm trying to think. But she talked about golfing. If a partner,
Mhm.
has a golf hobby and they go for, 7 hours on a Tuesday and they just spend the day at the golf course, like that's something that they're going to do. But if we
Right.
change that to spending time with a new person, spending time with a new romantic connection, all of a sudden
Hmm.
the incumbent partner feels like they're losing something.
Uh-huh.
But you
I
never
just
had that.
not really. Again, I think it really helps that like Amuda is super independent,
Hmm.
and I am not quite as independent, but pretty close. So like it really mostly just came down to FOMO type stuff, like oh, they're gonna go do something that would have been fun to do, or like let's see. I'm trying to think. Honestly, if anything, I was more worried for you, as weird as that may sound, again, from the coming into it. Like, I was trying really hard not to seem like I was being possessive or like,
Hmm.
no, this is something that Amuda and I do, and you're not allowed to do it. Like, I hope
Right.
that's never come across because that's never been an intent, right? Like I like that she and I play board games, for example. Like, I think is sort of required as polyamorous. I think that's sort of like in the like the list of like it's a checkbox that eventually we have a
Eventually, yeah.
95% chance of getting into board games at some point.
Yep.
Yeah, and I know we're slowly drawing you in, which is great.
That's
But
right.
like,
Yeah.
I never felt like, but Amuda and I play board games together. James can't play board games with her. Psh, no, not at
Hmm.
all. And I hope I've never made anything like that or otherwise feel, like it's
Nah,
off
you're
limits or yeah.
you're a saint. Get out of here.
No, not a
I lucked
saint, but
out. I'm
decent.
gonna say I lucked out in the meta department. One of
Agreed.
the
I do
things
too.
one of the things that I really appreciate is the fact that we are friendly. Like we have
Yeah,
on multiple times, multiple occasions, the three of us have gone out and gotten lunch together, and
right. And we
um,
need to do it again soon.
yes, we do. Yeah, maybe we can do it tomorrow. We'll see. We'll run that through Amuda, run that
Right.
through the boss. We'll see how she feels. But but no, like I guess kind of in that vein, um, good meta relationships versus bad meta relationships. Have you ever had, not necessarily bad, but just
Right.
have you ever had any meta issues?
Let's see. I've never had what I would call a bad meta issue. I've had a little bit more challenging ones
Hmm.
before. Like one of the people I met really early on, post divorce, and sort of like when I was just getting into non monogamy and polyamory specifically. I met basically a person that was kind of halfway on the spectrum between swinger and polyamorous.
Hmm.
So, and probably a little closer to swinging than polyamory. And she was great, and we really had a wonderful time. But like, I never like disliked her husband or anything. He's actually a really nice guy. But like, we met and we went on a couple of double dates and stuff. But like, it was not like with you and me where it was super comfortable, and you know what I mean.
Hmm.
And I don't. Again, it wasn't challenging or bad or anything like that. It was just different, if that makes any sense. And like, I think part of that was just because he and I don't have a lot in common, right? Other
Right.
than non-monogamy, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. I've had other metas that I've had closer relationships with, and those have been really good. Like another former partner, her husband was actually really good at sort of being a communication bridge, which is weird because she's the
Huh.
hinge, right? But he was really good at sometimes translating what she was saying into something that I could understand because he was
Interesting.
also a super nerd and she was a bit less of a super nerd. So sometimes he could almost like he could almost turn it into programmer type speak, not quite that dry
Right.
or but like he was usually able to like take something that she was saying that I just wasn't grokking at all, and he was able to translate it into something that made more sense and helped us both out. So that was a
Nice.
very unusual kind of a relationship, but it was also really good. So
Nice.
yeah, I've been pretty lucky on the meta front.
Agreed all the way around. How important do you feel is the meta relationship to the success of the actual relationship?
Ooh, I would say so long as it's not actively toxic, I think it kind of doesn't matter, right? So think of it almost like a floor, maybe, right? So like the floor is you need to be able to communicate, even if it's only occasionally, and it's like the sort of in an emergency, you guys need to be able to work together and not like
Right.
loathe each other, right? And when I say guys, I mean gender neutral guys, right?
Sure,
You know,
sure.
whatever metas are involved need to be able to communicate and not just like want to hurt each other, right? If you can kind of get above that floor, I think after that it really is up to everybody. Like there's nothing wrong with wanting kitchen table polyamory, but I think you probably shouldn't insist on it. That
Hmm.
seems a little so like some people, right, are pretty what's the right word, introverted and solitary by nature. They're probably not going to like kitchen table polyamory as much as some other people. That doesn't mean they can't be polyamorous, right? And to
Right.
like ding somebody just for that seems like it might be short-sighted, right? um or like another way maybe it would be like they doesn't it seem that like so long as there's not an actively toxic relationship or an actively bad interaction, like even if two people don't particularly like each other that much, so long as they can be civil to each other and at the kitchen table once in a while or whatever, right? Or at a event or at a holiday party or whatever, like it kind of doesn't matter. It's a better relationship would be wonderful, and I consider that, right, like a bonus, but not a requirement, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does, and I pretty much agree. I'm definitely of the I like kitchen table poly. Like
Mm-hmm.
kitchen table is definitely my kind of poly. And if I was involved with somebody who wasn't kitchen table poly, I think it would be a little bit tough. Um, I remember there was a time when I had yet to meet Vanessa's partner Ben.
Mm-hmm.
She had been dating him for quite a while before I got a chance to meet him, and prior to meeting him, it always just felt like this shadowy threat.
Yeah.
But as soon as I met him and like we got to know each other, like
Mm-hmm.
this is my dude now. Like he's my buddy. He when Namuda and I went to Palm Springs this past weekend, it was Ben who came over and stayed with my dog with me, stayed with Katie with
Nice.
me, or with Katie for the weekend,
Mm-hmm.
like it's really cool to be able to have that kind of a friendship and relationship.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let me backtrack just slightly. I was
Sure.
definitely not saying you should never meet. I actually think that's probably not a good thing to aim for. Like I'm totally fine with parallel poly, but I think everybody should meet at least once or twice,
I was gonna ask
and
that.
there
Yeah.
should be a communication channel open, right? Because like what happens when somebody goes to the hospital or some horrible thing, right? Like you need a way to relay information, you know? So I would definitely say like me personally, I would have a very hard time dating somebody in a don't ask, don't tell style relationship,
Hmm.
specifically because of this, right? I could deal with the parallel nature, but I would probably want to meet their other partner, which I understand is not really doable in a DADT thing.
Yep.
So that's definitely a big distinction, I would say, right? Because like you were saying, prior to meeting Ben, he was this big shadowy, thing, and it was like, well, because I don't know anything really about him, he is of course the perfect everything, right? He's
Right.
better than me in every single dimension, which obviously it's not a contest, but you can't. But when you don't have a face to the name and a voice and and a personality to ascribe to things, you just are automatically going to assume, well, of course, he's exactly what my other partner wanted, or she, or
Right.
they're exactly what they wanted, and your brain weasels will just have a field day with that.
Brain
So
weasels.
yeah,
Hate those
right.
brain weasels. All right, last question
They're
for you.
puns. Sure.
Last question for you. Which do you think is easier? And hopefully you have some experience to draw on here. But we can talk about it because we're both coming from different ways, from different angles. So, which do you think is easier to be the one in an established relationship and have somebody new coming into it,
Hmm.
or to be that person coming into an already established relationship?
Um, I have now done both. So I have been the coming into an established relationship more often. So I would my like they both have their own challenges, right? I would say though, especially when you're new, going into and becoming a part of an established relationship is so far outside of what any relationship anything has ever talked about before. You know, like sorry, not anything, but in standard monogamy culture, right? Like if
Right.
you're just getting into it, even if you've read the books, even if you've done stuff, like I still remember with some of my first couple of partners, I was like, really? You're okay? I know you've said that, but like, are you sure? Really? You sure? You know, and it takes a little while to really get used to yeah, it's actually not a problem. And like, this is what we want. And just like you do. So I would say that for me, at any rate, that was harder. Um, but like again, so the one thing I definitely was never in the situation of is as an established couple opening up and then seeing somebody new come in and be the new shiny without having
Gotcha.
done that once or twice already, right? So I could totally see that also being really difficult. You know, because one thing about the new shiny is they kind of get all of the not the attention, that's not what I'm trying to say, but like because it's a newer relationship, there's sort of more attention paid in the like, oh, I better make sure I really spruce up for my date, or you know,
Right.
or heck, we got to make sure we have extra dates because we're just getting to know each other or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's easy to uh, you know, it's easy to conflate that with, oh, see, they're just super interested in the new shiny and I'm the old less shiny and not that important.
Right.
That I could see that being really troublesome as well. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I could see both being really hard. I don't know that there's a good answer.
Yeah, no, I probably asked the question or phrased it the wrong way by saying which is easier. You answered it
Okay.
better by addressing the different challenges involved in each. Um, but yeah, that was what was I gonna say? Oh, you were talking about the new and shiny, and I was thinking about when there it's one thing where if you've been polyamorous for a while and you've had multiple partners coming in and out, and if you've
Mhm.
maintained one for a long time, um I think that there's a difference between like that and somebody who's brand new to polyamory, barely opening up their relationship for the first time and have
Yeah.
never had the experience of all of those different feelings happening all at once. So
Right.
um but you pointed out some really good challenges and some really good some good things for people to think about.
Yeah. Just
Any
be aware
final
of going
thoughts?
in.
Yeah, any final thoughts to leave with the audience?
I mean, since we talked about like hard stuff, right? Like things that are can be hard about polyamory, because you know, again, this isn't easy. Like number one, I'd go back to something I said earlier, which is go easy on yourself.
Mhm.
Like
Yep.
you're gonna make some mistakes. Another way to look at it, right, is there's nothing wrong with feeling a particular way. You know, you get to feel jealous of your partner going out and doing things that you wanted to do with them, or doing something that you didn't know you wanted to do until they went and did it with somebody else. Like, there's nothing wrong with feeling bad about those things, but
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
don't take those bad feelings out on other people, right? Like, there's the
Right.
like you can't control your feelings all that well. I know some people disagree with that, but you know, at the very least, you can't control your initial reactions to things. Let's put it that way, right?
Mhm.
But you can always control your behavior, even if
Right.
it may not be easy in the moment, but you can still control your behavior, even if your behavior is, hey, I need to go process this for a while, or oh, hey, I need to just go step out and like stew for a bit, and you know, come
Yep.
back later. So, but again, still go easy on yourself, especially if you're new. But even if you're not, like, I could totally see something coming and out of left field and blindsiding me at some point, and
Yeah, totally.
hopefully, you know, like the learning to go easier on myself about pronouns gig will translate into being easier, like, you know, not beating myself up for like, oh, I should know better. I've been doing this for 7 years or whatever, you
Right.
know, 8 years
Yep.
now, whatever, losing count.
I love it. I love it. Jason,
Yeah,
man, thanks so much for jumping in here with me last
yeah,
minute.
absolutely.
I had for everybody listening, I had my guest cancel on me a little while before the show, and Jason had told me before that he was willing to jump in. So thank you,
Yeah,
man. Appreciate it. And yeah. Hopefully get to see you again soon. For sure, we need to do that again
Sure
soon.
we will. And I hope we can do this again sometime. I mean, not that I want your guests to cancel, but I'm usually free around nowadays, now this time, or I mostly can be. So yeah, hopefully we can do more of these.
Did you hear that, everybody? I think he just volunteered.
I
think he just volunteered to be my co-host, everybody. I think he just did that.
Is that what I just did? God, I hope not.
All right, everybody. Thank you all.
Guest host. How about guest host?
Guest host. I like it. All right. Well, thank you, as always, to our live audience for tuning in. As a reminder, when we're live, you get no commercial interruptions, but the same can't be said for the podcast downloads. So if you want to avoid the commercial interruption, be sure to catch us live Monday through Wednesday, 2:30 Pacific time, or sign up for Patreon, where you'll get access to our commercial-free RSS feed and support the show. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, wherever it is that you download your podcast if you haven't already, and please leave us a review. We'll really appreciate it. That is all we've got for you all today. We'll be back tomorrow with the last show of the week. Until then, as always,
have a nice day. Thank you for tuning in to the Practicing Polyamory podcast. Would you or someone in your polycule like to be a guest? Sign up at practicingpolyamory.com and join the conversation. Please support us by subscribing, liking, and following us on social media at Practicing Polya by clicking any of the affiliate links on our website or by subscribing at patreon.com/practicingpolya.